We could just stay here and watch the sunset instead of rushing out.
Yes, I like that idea very much.
Daniel sat quietly in his car, staring at the text from his best friend. "She's amazing, trust me. Just don't judge too quickly." He didn't think much of it. He'd been single for almost a year after his last breakup, and his friend had insisted this blind date might help him move on. It was a Friday evening in Los Angeles, and the sky glowed orange as the sun dipped behind the skyline. The small cafe on Melrose Avenue looked cozy, its outdoor lights twinkling against the glass windows. He checked his reflection in the rearview mirror, straightened his shirt and stepped out, unaware that this evening would change the way he saw love forever. When he entered the cafe, he scanned the tables, looking for someone who might be waiting for him. That's when he saw her, Ava. Her chestnut hair fell neatly over one shoulder, her blue eyes catching the dim light. She smiled when she saw him, but what caught Daniel off guard wasn't her beauty. It was the wheelchair beside her. His friend hadn't mentioned that. For a moment his mind went blank. A dozen thoughts ran through his head. Should he say something? Should he act like he didn't notice? He didn't want to seem rude or surprised, but he couldn't hide the slight hesitation that flickered across his face. Ava noticed. She was used to that look. People trying not to look shocked, trying to appear normal but failing. She gave a polite smile and said, "You must be Daniel." Her voice was calm, almost confident, yet there was a softness in it that made him relax. He sat down and tried to focus on her, not the chair. "Yeah, that's me," he said, forcing a smile. "Sorry I'm a bit late. Traffic was brutal." She laughed lightly. "You're in LA. Everyone's late." "I'm just glad you showed up." Her sense of humor instantly eased the tension. They started talking about work, music, favorite food spots in the city. Daniel learned she was a freelance designer, passionate about creating art inspired by real people. As she spoke, he noticed how animated her hands were when she described her work, how her eyes lit up with excitement. It was easy to forget the wheelchair. She had a presence that drew people in. But as the conversation deepened, a thought lingered in the back of his mind. Why hadn't his friend told him she was disabled? An hour passed effortlessly. The conversation flowed, filled with laughter and small moments of silence that weren't uncomfortable at all. When the waiter brought dessert, Daniel found himself genuinely enjoying her company. But as the plates were cleared, Ava suddenly looked serious. Her voice softened. "Listen," she said, "you don't have to stay if this feels weird. You don't have to pretend." Daniel frowned, unsure what she meant. She looked down briefly, then back up at him. "I know people sometimes feel sorry for me. I get that, but I don't want pity dates. If you're only here because you feel bad, it's okay to go." Her words hit him hard. For the first time that night, Daniel didn't know what to say. He felt guilty, not because he pitied her, but because he realized part of him had hesitated when he saw the wheelchair. He took a breath. "I'm not here out of pity," he said slowly. "I'm here because my friend told me you were worth meeting, and now that I have, I get why." Ava's eyes softened. She studied his face, searching for sincerity. There was no fake sympathy in his tone, no forced smile. Just quiet honesty. They spent another hour talking. She told him about the car accident that changed her life 2 years ago. "I was driving home from work," she said. "Some guy ran a red light. I woke up in the hospital 3 days later. They told me I'd never walk again." She said it so matter-of-factly that it broke his heart. But what impressed him most wasn't her story. It was how she owned it. "At first I thought my life was over," she continued. "But then I realized I still had my art, my friends, my humor. I could either spend my life being bitter or start living again." Daniel listened silently, admiring the courage it took to say those words. The way she spoke about pain, with strength, not sadness, made him feel small and inspired all at once. He told her about his own struggles, how he'd lost confidence after his last relationship ended badly. She smiled. "So you've been hurt too," she said softly. "Maybe that's why you showed up tonight." As they finished their coffee, the cafe began to empty. Outside, the city lights shimmered through the windows. Daniel offered to walk her to her car, but she chuckled. "I've got wheels, remember?" she teased. He laughed, shaking his head. Fair enough, he replied. They paused by her car, and for a long moment neither spoke. Then Ava said quietly, "You really didn't have to stay, you know." He smiled. "I know," he said, "but I wanted to." That night, as Daniel drove home through the glowing streets of Los Angeles, he couldn't stop thinking about her. Her smile, her strength, her honesty, it all stayed with him. He realized that what started as a simple blind date had turned into something much deeper. Ava wasn't just another girl he'd met. She was someone who made him question what love, courage, and beauty truly meant. Over the next few weeks, Daniel and Ava kept meeting again and again. Their connection grew naturally, without either of them forcing it. What started as casual coffee meetups turned into long walks by the Santa Monica Pier, late-night calls, and deep conversations that stretched into the early morning. Daniel loved the way Ava spoke about life, fearless yet grounded. She talked about how she had to relearn simple things like getting out of bed, dressing up, or painting after the accident. Each word carried a quiet strength that Daniel couldn't ignore. He started to look forward to her messages, her voice, and the calm she brought into his often chaotic world. Ava, too, found herself feeling something she hadn't felt in a long time: trust. After her accident, she'd pushed most people away. Some couldn't handle her new life. Others stayed only out of guilt or pity. But Daniel was different. He didn't flinch when she struggled with her wheelchair, didn't rush to help unless she asked. He listened when she spoke and made her feel like a woman again, not a patient, not a project. Every time they met, she saw something genuine in his eyes. One evening, Daniel picked her up for dinner. He had found a small rooftop restaurant overlooking the city, the kind of place where music played softly and the air smelled like jasmine and wine. Ava wore a dark green dress that brought out her eyes, and Daniel couldn't stop looking at her. As they talked, she told him about her art project, a series of digital portraits representing people living with disabilities in modern America. "I want people to see us differently," she said. "We're not broken. We're just human," Daniel nodded, feeling proud of her. "You're already changing how I see the world," he admitted. After dinner, they sat in his car, watching the lights of Los Angeles shimmer below. The city felt alive, endless, and full of stories like theirs, unplanned, imperfect, but real. Ava broke the silence first. "You know," she said softly, "I almost didn't come to that cafe the day we met." Daniel turned toward her. "Why not?" She looked out the window. "Because I was tired of being disappointed. Every time someone found out about the chair, they'd make excuses. I didn't want that again." He smiled gently. "Then I'm glad you took the risk." She met his eyes and smiled back. "Yeah, me too." Weeks turned into months. Their bond only deepened. They went to art shows, beaches, even small road trips, where Daniel made sure her wheelchair fit comfortably in the car. But there were also hard days. Days when Ava's frustration boiled over, when something simple like a curb or an inaccessible doorway made her feel trapped. One night after a small argument, she finally broke down. "You don't understand," she said, tears in her eyes. "You can walk away any time." "I can't." Her voice trembled. Daniel stood there, unsure what to say. Then he knelt beside her and took her hand. "I'm not here because I feel sorry for you," he said softly. "I'm here because I love you. Every version of you." Ava stared at him for a long time. It was the first time he'd said the word love, and it wasn't in some grand, dramatic way. It was quiet, raw, and real. She squeezed his hand, her eyes glistening. "You really mean that?" she whispered. "I do," he replied. From that night on, something changed between them. She let him in more. She laughed harder, shared deeper, and stopped questioning why he stayed. A few months later, Daniel surprised her by taking her back to the cafe where they'd first met. The lights were the same soft jazz playing in the background. She rolled in, smiling. "This place again?" she teased. He grinned nervously. "Yeah, I thought it was a good memory to revisit." As they talked, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Her breath caught. He opened it, revealing a delicate silver ring. "Ava," he said, his voice trembling slightly, "the day I met you, I thought I was doing your friend a favor. But the truth is that day changed me. You showed me what love really means. Strength, patience, honesty. So, Dave, will you marry me? Ava's eyes filled with tears. For a moment she was speechless. Then she laughed softly through the tears. You really didn't stay out of pity, did you? She whispered. Daniel shook his head. No, he said, smiling. I stayed because you're the most incredible woman I've ever met. She reached out her hand, and he slipped the ring onto her finger. The whole cafe clapped, but for Daniel and Ava, the world had gone still. That night, as they sat outside under the stars, Ava leaned her head on his shoulder. You know, she said quietly, for the first time in a long time, I'm not scared of the future. Daniel kissed her forehead.